So I just wanted to show a very simplified version of the rules for Sonic the Hedgehog Crash Course. I initially wanted to integrate these into the instruction manual. I wasn't able to get them in, but I want to include a video anyways for those online that might search and try to find a simplified version of the rules. But these rules are good for kids or maybe those that aren't really into hobby games. This is more of like a hobby style game that bridges the gap between more of the mainstream and the hobby board games. So the rules might seem a little more complex, but anyways, we'll show you the rules, and you can always start with these, and you can always eventually start to integrate the other components and the other rules in as you go, as you learn the game. But this is an abbreviated, simplified version of it. So what you do is you'll take your figurines, you'll take those, set those aside, you'll take just these tiles, just the tiles that have the green on them. You'll leave all of these components aside, all this stuff, and you'll just take the items that are you'll see they have the question mark on the back, just the ring, just the crab meat, the crab, and the booster. So just these three items. So that's what all of these are, is just these three items. So you'll put them face down like this. You shuffle them all around, and then you'll take your track and you just kind of start making a track. You take turns if you want between the players to determine how the track's made. Each person lays a tile. And you just go like that, and there you go. You made a track. You just determine where the starting line is and where the finish line is. So let's say you're just doing 3-player. Everyone chooses their pawn. If they're just doing 2-player, you can just do Sonic and Knuckles or whatever. That's your starting line. This is your finish line. Okay? That's the track. Then what you'll do is you can take turns doing this too amongst all players, but you'll place 2 of these tiles, little item tiles, per one of these track tiles in any of the empty spaces. So a space that doesn't have spikes or a space that doesn't have this little bug here. So you'll just place them any 2 spaces. Doesn't matter. Up to the player's choice. Okay, and I'll just do the whole thing just so it's perfectly clear. So just bear with me. But I'll show you how quick it is to set this version up. Alright, so I've just set up a version of this game. So this is, again, the simplified rules. This isn't traditionally how the game is played, but it's close, I guess you could say. So what you'll do is you'll each take turns. You determine player order, and then the first player goes first. Each player gets to move 3 times from one space to any adjacent space. They can move diagonally if they wish. You just can't move sideways or backwards, so you always have to be moving in a forward motion. Once you initially move on the track, you can choose any of these 3 spaces to start in. So you want to just go there and then there and then there. If Sonic was here and Knuckles wanted to move in a space that Sonic's in, so if the situation was like this and he wanted to move where Sonic is, he'd actually just bump Sonic forward, and then he'd take his space. So even if Knuckles came from diagonal into his space, he would always move forward, no matter what. They always move forward when they're being bumped. And then, whenever you move into a space with an item tile on it, you'll flip the item and look at it before moving into the space. In this case, it's a ring. So what you'll do is you'll take that into your possession, and I'll explain what that does in a moment. So that'll be Sonic's ring. Then he'll move there, and then he'll say move here, and then he'll move here. 3 spaces. He'll flip this one. This is called a booster. So if you land on that, you immediately move ahead 2 spaces. 1, 2. Now you'll notice Sonic just moved into a spike pit. That means he's taken damage. So you'll lay him on his side like this. His next turn, he lost his next turn. But he will stand him back up on his next turn. That'll be his whole turn. And then the turn after that, he'll get to go again. However, because Sonic has a ring, you can spend this ring, you discard it, put it aside, and then he can immediately put himself back up so he doesn't lose his turn. So that's what rings do. The other item, so let's say you move into this here, it's called a Crabmeat. If you move into there, you take 1 damage. It's kind of a hidden spike pit, I guess you could say. Also, if you ever move into the Buzz Bombers, you'll take a damage. So you might wonder, why would I intentionally move in there? You wouldn't, but it would be situations like the booster forcing you to go in to the spike pit against your will, or say like Knuckles moving into the space, bumping him forward 1 space, and then he'd take damage. So all items, except for the rings, which are taken into your possession, all items stay on the track once they're revealed for every player to potentially use. So once you reveal the booster, it's there permanently for the rest of this game. Same with the Crabmeat, so they'll stay there forever in that space. They don't go into your possession. Only the ring goes into your possession. Anyways, that's the simplified version of the rules. And of course, what you're trying to do is get across the finish line first. So the first player across wins. And you can play a best of three if that's a bit too short for you, because it will go a bit faster than the traditional game. And that's the simplified version of the rules for Sonic the Hedgehog Crash Course. I'll include a written version of the rules in the description below, as well as links to the actual rules that you can try out once you feel a bit more comfortable with the game. Thanks.